All right. Chapter 21, verse 1. Now these are the judgments which thou shalt set before them. If thou buy a Hebrew servant, 6 years shall he serve, and in the seventh he shall go out free for nothing. So this probably isn't the only verse people will use to say God's in favor of slavery. No, that's not what he's not in favor of that. Why would a Hebrew servant be bought? He has debt that he can't pay. And the whole idea is God has a system where he's set free. So we'll see some of that here, but people want to say horrible things about God based upon their misunderstandings of bits of scripture that they take out of context. So God isn't in favor of slavery of any kind. Why was it shown by nations in the Bible? Well, the way I heard it explained, and it's a very good explanation, when you have an enemy that you defeat, you have to deal with that enemy. One, you can kill him. Okay, now I don't have to worry about my enemy. I've defeated him and I've annihilated him. Two, you can keep them alive and enslave them, turn them into a workforce. And you got to keep your thumb on them, otherwise they rise up and, fight back. So this, and I'll say particularly this is the devil's scheme to deal with the peoples of the world. But God has allowed these things because the alternative is, well, you wipe out your enemy. So, what's the lesser of evils? Well, keep them alive and, kind of oppress them. But God's not in favor of either of those things. If you worship the true God and do what's right, you won't have to have any of that. But we're living in a world that's run by the God of this world, the devil. So, all right, you can chime in on that. The Bible's not promoting slavery in any way. All right, verse 3. If he came in by himself, he shall go out by himself. If he were married, then his wife shall go out with him. If his master have given him a wife, and she have borne him sons or daughters, the wife and her children shall be her master's, and he shall go out by himself. Now, I'd say that's rough, but that's the rule. And if the servant shall plainly say, I love my master, my wife, and my children, I will not go out free, then his master shall bring him unto the judges, and he shall also bring him to the door, unto the doorpost, and his master shall bore his ear through with an awl, and he shall serve him forever. Yikes! I don't want a pierced ear, but this is what you got to do if you went into servitude and you got married while you were in it. So tough laws. Obviously, we don't live under these today. People want to be under the law. You sure? Verse 7, if a man sell his daughter to be a maidservant, she shall not go out as the men servants do. If she please not her master, who hath betrothed her to himself, then shall he let her be redeemed. To sell her unto a strange nation he shall have no power, seeing he hath dealt deceitfully with her. And if he have betrothed her unto his son, he shall deal with her after the manner of daughters. And if he take him another wife, her food, her raiment, and her duty of marriage shall he not diminish. And if he do not these three unto her, then shall she go out free without money. So let me pause there before we go on. A lot of these things, as you read them, you kind of wonder, well, how did they, kind of handle these instructions as they dealt with people? And I'll say that's the whole point of the nation having to have people of the law, lawyers as it's called in the New Testament. They needed to understand the law and judge righteously about these things. And I'll say God probably gave them some insight with his spirit. And of course, the people got off course and did on their own. But these things are hard to, for me, I'd say they're hard to understand in order, how do I adjudicate some of these situations? But we think of the Ten Commandments, well, they're pretty straightforward. Well, a lot of the other laws aren't. They're tough. And that's even our legal system. You can't just walk into court and say, I'm going to defend myself. You're in trouble when you do that. You need somebody who
Well,
knows what they're doing.
here's the thing though. You're not Jewish.
No, I'm just saying, as I try to explain these or think about how they worked, it's hard for me to understand that. They obviously had a culture that this was ingrained into, but they also had lawyers that were to understand this. The teachers of the law, the scribes, the the lawyers and so forth. So as we read these, I'm going, man, how did they deal with these things? But they had a culture where it was part of it. That helped. So yeah, I'm not Jewish, and I'm also glad I'm not under this. All right. Anybody else? Something to chime in on, give an opinion, explanation? All right, verse 12. He that smiteth a man so that he die shall be surely put to death. And if a man lie not in wait, but God deliver him into his hand, then I will appoint thee a place whither he shall flee. But if a man come presumptuously upon his neighbor to slay him with guile, thou shalt take him from mine altar that he may die. And he that smiteth his father or his mother shall be surely put to death. And he that stealeth a man and selleth him, or if he be found in his hand, he shall surely be put to death. And he that curseth his father or his mother shall surely be put to death. Yikes, pretty tough. A lot of kids today, they wouldn't be living.
Well, isn't a curse the same as praying to God to smite somebody?
A curse?
Yes.
Well, I think a curse would be, speaking poorly, particularly to others. But I don't know. I haven't gone off and studied it. I don't know that it's just praying to God. This is something that other people have to witness. The people have to carry out these laws. God's not just calling down and saying, "Hey, get this guy, get that guy." They're governing themselves with the law, so other people have to observe it or hear it. So I'd say it's more than prayer.
And another thing, why do you think what do you think it's meant by surely?
It's not perhaps. There's exceptions. So just like it says, well, I've already forgotten it. Back in Genesis, thou shalt not surely die. Yeah. So if you eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, thou shalt surely die. And what does it say in the discussion between the woman and the serpent? Lest ye die, perhaps. No, it's a definite. It's gonna happen. So surely means it's required. You gotta execute it. Now we're gonna find when it talked about killing someone, there was exceptions that would make it manslaughter, and that's why I said there's a distinction between murder and manslaughter. If it's murder, the person has to die. No exceptions. We certainly, if we're a Christian nation and we think we need go back to what was told Noah. It's not part of the law. If you shed a man's blood, it's required that your blood be shed. You don't even need to go under Israel's law. And we want to be a Christian nation, we should at least be observing that. Now, I'm not trying to go off and kill anybody, but you would deter people from killing if that was on the books. But anyway, so that's what I think the surely means is it's got to happen. And you find that, God's consistent in the way he uses words. So he shall surely be put to death, surely be put to death. All right, so here we're going to have some other things about someone not dying, I guess. Verse 18, and if men strive together, and one smiteth another with a stone or with his fist, and he die not, but keepeth his bed, so I guess that means he's bedridden. If he rise again and walk abroad upon his staff, then shall he that smote him be quit. I guess he's not going to be held accountable. Only he shall pay for the loss of his time, and shall cause him to be thoroughly healed. And if a man smite a servant or his maid with a rod, and he die under his hand, he shall surely be punished. Notwithstanding, if he continue a day or two, he shall not be punished, for he is his money, because he's a servant. If men strive and hurt a woman with child, so that her fruit depart from her, and yet no mischief follow, he shall be surely punished, according as the woman's husband will lay upon him, and he shall pay as the judges determine. So again, some of these things require some wisdom to execute. Verse 23, and if any mischief follow, then thou shalt give life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burning for burning, wound for wound, stripe for stripe. And the whole point of that isn't to mean, well, you poke that guy's eye out, and we're gonna gouge your eye out. No, the punishment fits the crime. So if you're punishing this over here with this level of punishment, whatever that is, you can't go over here and make it much, much less or much, much worse, so that you lose that relative equivalence. Okay. There was an accident, that guy lost his foot. Well, we're going to have to cut your foot off. Well, no, that's not what that's saying, but that's what people try to do with it. The Bible is often literal, and many times it's not. So that's where it takes wisdom to know what's God saying. Verse 26, and if a man smite the eye of his servant or the eye of his maid that it perish, he shall let him go free for his eye's sake. So evidently he's not losing his own. And if he smite out his manservant's tooth or his maidservant's tooth, he shall let him go free for his tooth's sake. Wow, I guess that would be a good trade. Knock my tooth out and I go free. If an ox gore a man or a woman that they die, then the ox shall be surely stoned, and his flesh shall not be eaten, but the owner of the ox shall be quit. So he's going to lose his ox. But if the ox were wont to push with his horn in time past, and it hath been testified to his owner, and he hath not kept him in, but that he hath killed a man or a woman, the ox shall be stoned, and his owner also shall be put to death. And I'll say that's because he knows there's a problem here and he's not doing something about it. He's being held accountable. Now, you don't have surely put to death there, so I think this one requires some testimony to confirm that, yes, this is bad, this guy should be killed. Otherwise, the previous verse was enough. Verse 30, if there be laid on him a sum of money, then he shall give for the ransom of his life whatsoever is laid upon him. Whether he have gored a son or have gored a daughter, according to this judgment shall it be done unto him. If the ox shall push a manservant or maidservant, he shall give unto their master 30 shekels of silver, and the ox shall be stoned. Okay, so I'm sure they had to, take the occasion. Well, it wasn't an ox, it was a horse. Well, we need to judge if this horse is out of control or this was an accident. And, these things would be tough. This is why the people were lined up to talk to Moses, and Jethro gave the advice, you need some people to help you with all these complaints. Now, I don't know what went on, that these people were coming to Moses, but it's this kind of stuff. Verse 33, and if a man shall open a pit, or if a man shall dig a pit and not cover it, and an ox or ass fall therein, the owner of the pit shall make it good, and give money unto the owner of them, and the dead beast shall be his. And if one man's ox hurt another's, that he die, then they shall sell the live ox and divide the money of it, and the dead ox also that they shall divide. Guess that's selling it to eat. Or if it be known that the ox hath used to push in time past, and his owner hath not kept him in, he shall surely pay ox for ox, and the dead shall be his own. Okay, I don't really have anything to say about all these other than what I said. Lots of instruction. And there's more things like this. And the whole idea is to give Israel a nation that was righteous in the sight of the other nations. They're to see that they had laws. And I imagine people, if Israel's this great nation, they're going to come visit, like the Queen of Sheba came to Solomon to see how the nation was run. And, she's like, it's not even close to the things that I've heard. Wow. And that's what Israel's supposed to be. But of course, they're corrupt. They're worshiping other gods, and God leads them to themselves, and they're a poor witness. I'll say Christianity is just as poor a witness today, with all the bad goings on of believers doing the things they do and not knowing what part of the Bible to follow. And anyway,